This is a really powerful lesson. I'm glad you're here for it. I'm going to encourage you in this video and in this episode about how you are your own best teacher and how powerful this is for your progress, for your enjoyment of practice, for figuring out what you need to work on, and for adapting whatever you learn from anyone else to fit exactly what you need to reach your goals or to find the most inspiration or to get the most creative or whatever it is you're looking for in any session. This episode is jam-packed with little tidbits that I think will help you feel refreshed and excited to dive into your practicing and reach whatever you want on the guitar. We're going to talk about how to adapt lessons that you learn to fit your needs. Let's get into it. I'm Jared Borkowski from SoundGuitarLessons.com, where I have courses that help guitarists express themselves more freely and confidently through fretboard theory mastery, through improvisation, through comping, through arranging, and more. If you're new here, welcome. Please follow and please subscribe. I have new episodes like this on a regular basis. So first, let's talk about where improvement happens. Improvement happens when we're practicing, when we get to the challenge sweet spot, which is what I'm calling it right now. Just that spot where we are just challenged to the right amount, where we're out of our comfort zone, but it's not so far beyond what we can do that we're not getting any benefit, because it's like if you have no starting point and you just hear a foreign language, you're way out of your comfort zone. You're not even challenged. You're just like, it's going over your head. You're like, I don't get that. If something is way too easy for us at the same time, we're just going to be spinning our wheels, or we're going to be not making improvement. So we want to always be right at that spot where it is challenging, out of our comfort zone, but just the right amount. Okay, that is great to know, but it can be a little bit stressful to hear someone like myself, because I talk about this a lot, hear someone like myself talk about this, because we can think, oh no, am I doing it right? Oh no, what material should I use to be at that spot? Oh no, I need the perfect method to guide me through being challenged at just the right time. But there's no perfect method out there for you. Only you can determine and force yourself to be in this challenge sweet spot with any material you are working on ever. So it's completely on you. It's completely on me for my practicing. It's completely on all of us to, in the moment of practicing, adapt what we're working on to get into that challenge sweet spot. So we know that we want to be challenged, and we know that that sweet spot is there. And if we're practicing something and it's below it or above it, instead of thinking, oh, I need to be working on something else. No, we just need to change how we are working on that thing. You can adapt absolutely anything. This is one of the biggest takeaways of this episode here. You can adapt anything to be easier or to be more challenging. And the practice of adapting is great practice in its own right, because you're going to have to think about, how is what I'm working on right now, this piece of music, this lick, this scale, this whatever you are doing, this warm up, this song I'm trying to learn, this chord change, okay? You have to, the challenge of thinking for yourself, how can this fit right at the level that I'm at right now? That is a skill that will rocket you forward more than anything else, because then no matter what you're exposed to, you can mold it to fit exactly where you're at right in that moment. So instead of just saying, this right here is too hard, like, oh, I can't play that piece. Let's say a solo guitar piece, a classical piece or something, like, oh, that's beyond my level. Now, for truly executing it at a performance level, it very much might be, right? So maybe it's beyond your level for doing at a recital that you want to do in 2 months. That's very realistic. We should be realistic about that. But it's not too advanced to get extreme quality practice out of, or to get extreme progress out of, if we love that so much. So way before we're ready, for example, many years ago, way before I was ready to actually play this piece, I started working on one of the Bach lute suites, one of the preludes of the Bach lute suites, which are absolutely gorgeous, and I just loved listening to them. I was so inspired. So I went into it, and absolutely, if I had to perform that piece, even within the next year of starting working on it, it was the piece itself was beyond my level. But by taking from it and knowing how to water it down a little bit, not just only slow it down, but to tweak it to fit my needs, to kind of create exercises out of each little moment. That is what great exercises are made from. Any great exercise, if someone says, hey, here's a great exercise, and actually I have one I'll give you at the end of the episode here, that's the warm-up I do every day. But any great exercise came from or should be related to a purposeful goal. And so a lot of good stuff that people made up as exercises or methods come from working on something that's a little too challenging and then figuring out, oh, if I change it this way, it's a stepping stone ladder for myself to get to the thing that I'm, really wanting to work on. So the big takeaway here is that it's on you to do that. Not that other people can't do it for you also, but you can customize it on the spot anytime what you need to work on, instead of saying, I need to go to a teacher. And absolutely keep learning from as many teachers as you can, go to teachers, do all that. You just want to collaborate with the teachers, with you being truly your own best teacher. You know best in the end. So you want to, instead of saying, oh, I have to go find someone to tell me what to do with this, and you still might need to, but you want to work on this skill of, how can I change this for myself right now to be beneficial? Now, I know a lot of us are doing this to some degree often, but I just want to fully encourage all of us to embrace it fully, to not feel like, am I doing things wrong? If you're choosing for yourself something to try, if you know what you want out of it, and if you are experimenting and seeing if it works and seeing if it's going towards the skill set that you want to improve upon, there's nothing else better that you can do. And I'll, add to a lot of that in this episode, in the outline that I have here. So before I go deeper on this and further on this, kind of a caveat here, just an important thing to say up front. Obviously, we don't always need to be practicing to improve. And when I talk about quality practicing or deliberate practice or this challenge spot, it can sound a little bit like, if you're not doing that when you play guitar, then you're doing it wrong. That's not what I mean at all. It's just, if we want to see the most progress, like if you really are like, I'm sick of noodling around. I had plenty of time relaxing and playing guitar. I had fun just going and looking at YouTube videos and learning some songs. It's time to get down to business. It's time to let's really do some practicing that improves, right? You can always just think of exercise analogies with anything music practice related. Just think of, if you're dabbling around with some exercises or just, something pretty casual but good physical movement. That's very healthy, right? It can be fun. Sports, games, ping pong, is like some movement. But if you were like, I need to increase my strength in this muscle, this amount, you're like, it's time to actually hit it hard and see improvements. Okay, we know that kind of exercise is totally different, right? So with music, with playing guitar, please have fun. We're going to ideally be playing for fun and relaxing as much as our hearts desire. But if and when we get sick of where we're at, and this might be all the time for you, you might feel like, I just want to rock it forward every single day. Here we go. Some people do that. Like, here we go. 2 hours every day of the actual deliberate extreme practice that I'm fully focused. It's exhausting. I'm at the challenge spot, right? But the truth is, any amount of that type of practice is mind-blowingly effective. It's crazy, because our default state is to not want to do that. Just by evolution, we do not want to practice that way, because our brain is trying to conserve calories. It's trying to survive. It doesn't want to expend, this extra energy. So our default state is to avoid that. So even if we think we're practicing a lot, we can slip into not doing this kind of challenge state type of practicing, which is officially called deliberate practice. And then therefore we make less progress, right? And the idea of progress comes from, or what's happening, when we're actually making progress, is that it being so difficult and just that right challenge spot, but so kind of traumatizing for our neural pathways that they say, that really sucked. Let's find a way to make that easier next time. It's just like muscles, right? Oh, that tore the muscle there. That was too much weight. Let's repair a little extra next time, or so next time it's easier, and therefore muscle is built. Same with learning, motor skills, neural pathways, etc. Find that. So it's a bit of a stressful state, right? But a little goes a long, 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 long way. So if you're playing a lot of guitar, you're doing a lot of practice, and then you commit to like, hey, let's really try to find that perfect challenge spot. Let's try to set some parameters and rules for how many times I have to get this right, or kind of breaking down my goal here. And you do like 20 minutes of that, and you haven't for a while. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the answer. This is how I get to the crazy stuff that I thought I never could do. This is how it's possible to get there. Because you might see guitar players playing or teachers talking about things and feel like that's never going to happen for me. But with this kind of practice, it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It takes the effort, takes the time commitment, all that stuff. But it just all kind of starts to become possible. And I've had on and off phases for myself where I realize, how did I slip out of doing that true practice? And then I have a few sessions of it again and just literally feel myself improving, kind of in the moment, but certainly after a few days, it's like, oh my God, I just, in a much smaller chunk of time than usual, I just actually leveled up my skill from that. So just some inspiration about, what deliberate practice is, how effective it is, but importantly, we don't always have to be practicing that way. You can do whatever you want. This is just only if you want to see the real progress, you can practice that way. Okay. The next thing I want to say is just that no one can do this for you. And I taught private guitar lessons for a long, long time. And there were certain types of students, and throughout the years of teaching, certain types of people that approached, I don't know if it's type of person, but some students would come to me with the outlook that by coming to a teacher and paying the teacher, that the teacher was going to make it happen for them. Students that would come to me and say, okay, here we go. I'm paying you. This is my lessons. Make me a badass guitar player. But that can't happen. There's obviously no one can do your work for you. And again, this seems really obvious. And even those students knew that they had to practice, but there is just this idea that some people subscribe to, and I just want us to take full responsibility for ourselves, that it's totally on us. It's not about, oh, this person's gonna, oh good, the answer's there. This person's gonna do it for me. There's always adaptation that needs to happen, right? Someone can go to the best music school in the world and graduate, but not absorb any of the information, or not do it justice, right? Not take advantage of it. And you can go to a resource, whether it's, a teacher or maybe a music book that's considered not good, or a music program or a course, and go to it with this idea that like, it's completely on me to take whatever is in here and make it as useful for me as possible. If we approach bad quality resources with that, we'll make more progress than we approach good quality resources with the idea that, good, the resource is there, or the teacher's there, or the program is there, and now I'm set, right? And yeah, you still have to practice, but without that discerning approach mentally, that like, this is completely on me. This is completely on me to work super hard at it to get what I want out of it. So let's just be careful about that. This is all about us adapting things from, if they're too easy, we make it hard for us. If they're too hard, we make it easier for us. And we can expand any little nugget of musical information to be a universe of resources, a huge multitude of ways to practice one thing that enhance our musicianship a great deal, rather than like, okay, I have that little line down that I wanted to learn. What now? Well, sure, you can do whatever you want. You can go off and do something else, or you could go deeper on that one thing. And that's my favorite thing to do. How else can I play this? How can I absorb it? Can I also sing it? Can I play it in different keys? Can I play it in different positions on the guitar? Can I play it harmonized in thirds on the guitar? All of that stuff, for me at least, goes towards the goals that I want in my practice, right? Just enhanced overall musicianship, for complete control, for creativity, for improvisation, for composing, for playing, and for just my, having things feel more swift in general so I can express myself. So I know that I could take, if you gave me one little melody, let's say 4 measures of a melody, and you said, this is all you can practice for 2 years. And of course, I could do whatever I want with that, but it's the only thing I was allowed to work on. I could fill up my practice time, and let's say I even was practicing every day a lot. I would have no problem with it. Seriously, I know that sounds extreme, but I would not run out of things to do to work on my musicianship and my playing in a way that was extremely inspiring. In fact, I almost would like that to happen, because I love that kind of practice, and it really is working on all music at once. It really is working on all these skills that are going to come up. There's only 12 notes in our musical chromatic scale that we typically use, and there's only 7 notes in a diatonic scale and a major scale. It's like all this variety of music is coming from the same basic resources. So when we're learning how to manipulate those resources, like I said, can you do it in thirds interval? Can you do it in fourths interval? Can you do it with a pattern? Can you add ornamentation to it? Can you do it along one string? Can you hear it in your head? Can you write it out on sheet music, et cetera, right? I don't want that to overwhelm us. I want that to be inspiring, to say, yeah, what do I want out of, what can I do to manipulate this thing I'm working on to enhance my experience with it? Okay. So here's a little kind of a meta idea here, because I'm talking about teachers and I'm talking about learning from people and how we need to trust ourselves and find how to manipulate music on our own, and find the challenge spot and be our own teacher. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of teachers out there. There's a lot of advice out there. And not all of it is right for you, or right for me, or true for you, or true for me. Okay. So people will say things, and I just, including what I'm saying right now and anything else, don't just take what someone said and think that's it. That's the truth. That's the ultimate truth. Just because someone said it doesn't mean it's true for you, and doesn't mean it's like the ultimate right thing. And like, oh no, this is the answer in the way. It's just someone's opinion most of the time, including everything I'm saying now. So people might say, you have to practice guitar this way, or everyone should practice this, or one that is kind of clashes with my world a lot is that some people will say, never practice anything that's not a part of a real piece of music. Well, I love practicing stuff that's not part of a real piece of music. In my philosophy, everything I play is a real piece of music. And I like to practice exercises and technique things that are just purely for the sake of the technique, and it feels good to me, and I love it, and it sounds good to me, and it feels like music to me. Even though it's not like I'm going to release an album of it or play a concert of it, I'm playing real music when I'm doing it, and I'm working on something that feels right for me. And yet other people will be adamant about how that is a terrible way to practice, and you should never do that. These are just extreme examples, but just taking everything with a grain of salt. And I'm sure you've experienced this, and I have many times, where I heard someone say something, and any sort of advice or anything from any part of my life that applies to any part of my life, and just kind of took it to be fact, or just kind of took it as it would stress me out or something. And it would be days later that I would realize, that doesn't have to be true. That doesn't have to be the way I should do it. I could do it however I want, right? There's only a couple things you can actually do wrong, ever, in our world here in guitar practice. There's only a couple things. One is injure yourself, right? You're playing with technique that injures yourself. You're causing pain. Easy to say. Let's not do that. We want to play ergonomically and all of that, because we don't want to injure ourselves. It's going to prevent us from playing more. Obvious thing to avoid. The only other thing I believe that we can do wrong is that we think that we're practicing for a certain result, but we are not, right? We're practicing something, thinking thinking we're going towards a certain skill that we're building, but the thing we're practicing is not actually helping us get that, right? So we're not actually targeting it. That's a trickier one, and it's an insidious one, and it happens to all of us, but just something to watch out for. Usually it's in the form of something kind of obvious, where we're like, oh, sweet, if I play a bunch of these songs, then I will inevitably get better at songwriting. Or one example I like to say a lot is, oh, great, if I play more guitar in general, my ears will get better, which isn't necessarily true. Some amount, probably, that songwriting one. Yeah, if you're exposed to a bunch of songs, yeah, you probably will help your songwriting a little bit, but it's not a direct. There's a term called directness. Are you practicing the thing directly for the real use case that you actually want it? So there are very few things we can do wrong. You can do whatever you want. So don't believe anyone who says you have to practice this way, you have to do this, the must-learn thing. And if you see anything that I've done that says that, forgive me, because I've definitely put out a couple things like that as I try to navigate the world of online lesson creation for what works, what gets people's attention. It's tricky business, but this is much more important for me to share with you that just know for yourself, right? Know for yourself. You will always know the best for yourself. So I want us to trust ourselves more. The biggest challenge is figuring out where we want to go, what we want, what our goals are, and what we need to get there, what we need to do to get there. That's the hardest part, right? And that's totally okay if a teacher helps you figure that out too, but that's the hardest part. If you had extreme clarity on what you want, you had a vision of where you want to go, and then you could start asking yourself, well, what do I need to get there? Or asking someone else who knows more than you, can you help me get here? That's the best question when I was teaching. The best thing a teacher could possibly ask for is a student coming and saying, I know I want this, and here's where I'm at. What do I need to get there? That's so fun, because it's like, oh, sweet, you know what you want. Let me help you. This is going to be so awesome. This will help you. This will help you, because I know you're really serious about going there. So those are the challenges. Much harder than the challenge of actually doing the work. Doing the work, if we have the clarity on what we want, doing the work is so fun, because that difficult practice time, showing up, it just feels like, I just made one step towards that thing that I'm so excited about. It really helps sustain our practice. Okay. So just to reiterate, you often know best, what the answers are to all these things. So if in your heart, a teacher says to you, what you need, and you feel like you doubt it, you have permission, you are allowed to, tweak that a little bit, or doubt or experiment with other things to adapt, and manipulate, what the prescription was for you, to try to find for yourself what just resonates truly as you're, going closer towards your artist vision. Now, of course, you should still trust your teachers. I like to just say that you are, in the end, the buck stops at you. You're your own best teacher, and you are collaborating with these other teachers to make the perfect thing for yourself. Instead of there's no one size fits all. There's no lesson, method, exercise that just is the perfect in a box thing for everyone, right? There's just simply not. Okay. So one thing to do is just imagine that you are a student, or rather imagine that there's a student in exactly your situation, and you had to teach that student. That thought experiment is extremely powerful. Especially remember that, hopefully, if you are having trouble with a certain thing you're working on or whatever, just say, if a student came to me, it doesn't matter if you've never taught before, it doesn't matter, just a friend, you've given friends advice, it's the same type of thing. When we look at it from the outside, some sort of challenge, problem, if we think of it as helping someone else, it looks totally different, right? So if you can, do this thought experiment. If there were a student exactly struggling with what I am right now, and I had to help that student, kind of coach them, what would I tell them? And it doesn't matter if you can't do the thing yet. Just so much of coaching and helping is about the outside perspective, asking the right questions, getting someone to find the answer for themselves. It's like the Socratic method, right? Where the method is all about asking. You don't have to know anything special about someone else's special knowledge. You don't have to know more than them because you're not teaching. You're asking them a question so they find it for themselves. Isn't that crazy powerful? That's like the idea of, I think, my understanding of real coaching is not like, here, let me show you, do this, do this, do this. Watch how I do it so amazingly and perfectly. It's saying, okay, I hear what you're saying. Have you thought about it this way? And what do you think is causing that? And da-da-da-da-da, right? So you don't have to know how to do it yet, but imagine, what would you do to help this student that has the challenge you have? You'll come up with crazy creative ways to help them, and that is you, right? So you're coming up with crazy creative ways to help yourself. Well, what if I practice it this way instead? I never thought of that, right? And it just took stepping away a little bit to do that. So I love that kind of thing. So you're thinking of yourself as one of your own teachers always, okay? So I said this a couple times, but don't ignore advice. Don't just say, oh, okay, this means I can just think everyone's full of BS, and I'm going to go get a lesson or go take a course or whatever, and then just say, oh, okay, whatever, I'm just going to do my own thing anyway. That's not what I'm talking about. Take the advice, start from a place of, especially you find someone you trust, right? Start from a place of trusting it and then adapt it and be honest with yourself, experiment, and target your own needs. And that's where that's where you're going to see insane progress, and you'll be proud of it too. Okay. This is all that teachers are doing. Any great teacher, this is all they're doing. They're observing, they're determining the needs. Like, let's say, you have an amazing teacher with a private student. Okay. They're observing, they're determining the needs based on, ideally what the student wants, but whatever they think, the needs are based on where they are. And then they're customizing a way for that student to get the results, right? Great teachers are not prescribing in the box solutions. Great teachers are not saying, here's a thing that everyone does, right? Here's a thing that just came from, down the line of teachers that, this teacher taught it to this person, to this person, to this person, this lineage of, here's this exercise, everyone do it. That's really naive. That's really ignorant. A great teacher is saying, for that problem you have, for the result you need, for what you want, this way of practicing or this specific exercise is a great solution for you. And based on exactly where you are right now, here's how you should do it, right? Try it, for you, try going up a little further up the neck and back down, or try it this way because your technique isn't quite there yet, so do it only on the top 3 strings instead of all 6 strings. Or, okay, for you, I want you to, play this turnaround at the end instead. That is what is happening, and that's what we're allowed to do for ourselves, even if we don't feel like we know what all those resources are. The experimenting is the most important part. What's going to make this just the right fit for me? Hopefully you feel excited about this. It makes it way more fun, and you're totally allowed to do it. And as long as you don't injure yourself or go into practicing something forever that you think is going to get you a certain result, but it's actually not doing that for you, it's all just great experience, and you are getting kind of data as you do it to say, ooh, what if I try this? What if I, and both emotionally, how you react to playing something, because that's a huge thing we're looking for. Like, oh, that got me so inspired, or just purely the results. Like, wow, I can tell that that's gonna, get me towards that thing that I want. So again, just remember, all great teachers are just doing this. So we can be our own teacher by adapting. And I think we are all teachers anyway. Like, we share, we talk, we communicate with our family and our friends, and we give advice, and we raise kids, and we all have that ability to share and help and coach and give advice when we're called upon for it. So don't think, oh, I'm not a teacher, or oh, I'm not there yet. Knowing the goal and objective, I already talked about, is the hardest thing. I just want to say here that knowing the goal and objective in every single moment of your practicing is what's going to lead us to having that most quality practice, right? Like, this can be stressful because it can be hard to know, how do I get there? But this is something you'll know it when it happens. Okay, so just kind of trust that it will happen at some point, and then flag that as, oh, that's what that feels like. That you're practicing something, whatever it is, and you're so insanely clear on your goal and your objective in that moment, right? So if you're practicing a scale, great. Scales are really important to practice for a lot of reasons if you want certain results or if you're going towards certain goals. I love practicing scales, scale patterns, harmonizing with scales, improvising with scales, analyzing melodies that all come from scales, etc. So instead of just, I am supposed to practice scales because all those teachers say, here's your scales. Well, okay, great. If you're just doing it for the first time, you're going to learn a ton because you've never played it before. So you're just figuring out how to even play the notes. But after that, what are you really going for? Could be anything. Could be anything you want. Are you trying to play in time better, with a metronome? Are you maybe manipulating the metronome so the click is not on the downbeat, it's on the offbeat, so your time is even more enhanced? I've talked about that. I'll put a link in the description of my YouTube video version of this that you can go to check that out. But am I working on the lightness of my technique? Am I working on trying to hear it in my mind as I play the scale? Am I working on trying to see the theory layout of it? What the numbers are, or the solfege labels, do, re, mi, am I thinking of it as the third, the fourth, the fifth? All of this stuff. Am I working on my ergonomics in terms of just tension overall and breathing and warming up? So maybe you're doing this a lot when you practice certain things, but if we're ever practicing, we don't have that just like extreme crystal clear goal, then we're not getting as much out of it as we could. Let's have one more example of, just say you're trying to learn a piece, a song, can I play through these chords, or can I play these first two measures of this actual solo guitar arrangement of something? I'm about to do a video on a solo guitar arrangement of Georgia on My Mind. So if you wanted to practice that, then instead of just plunking through it and then plunking through it again and then playing through it again and then seeing it kind of slowly get better that way, the objective is enhancing that objective to say, I've talked about this a lot, but just something as simple as, can I get this first measure 3 times in a row without a mistake? Instantly, if you decide that and go towards that for the next few minutes, your practicing is just a million times more effective. You'll realize, wow, you could have sat for an hour and played it and then still not been able to play that first measure perfectly. But if you practice this way, you will increase your chances of doing that. So, as I've been saying, you want to devise your own version of an exercise to find that challenge sweet spot anytime with anything you ever want to practice. And you can adapt absolutely anything. You could take the hardest piece of music ever that you think, oh, someday I want to learn that, years later, maybe. Start working on it now and make it easier for yourself. If it's this big crazy chord you can't play, take the middle notes out, play the bottom note and the top note only. Or these are just examples off the top of my head. You do it for yourself completely. Oh, can I play? Ooh, this thing I thought was going to be so hard, this classical piece. Maybe I'll just play the melody only and study the melody. Oh, that's such a good thing to do for classical guitar pieces. That's what even the best of the best classical guitar players are doing, even though they have the chops to play the full thing, to isolate the melody and try to internalize a little bit, try to hear it, try to think about that theory, try to play it in different places. Oh man, we're just improving our overall musicianship so extremely. And you could do that with a piece of music that you think is way, 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 way beyond what you're supposed to be playing. And then you're enhancing your skills that much faster and working on something you love, and that is inspiring to you, and feel like you're in it, right? It still might take you years to get to the level of performance level of that, but you're working on the actual thing, the directness of what most inspires you. Okay, so you can turn some portion of something that's particularly hard into an actual exercise. And again, the best exercises exist and came into existence for exactly that reason. Oh, you're having trouble right here. Let's find a way to repeat that a bunch manipulating it with variation so that when you do that thing, it's like going, it's like training at a higher altitude. So when you run, say a runner running at a higher altitude, so when they run at a normal altitude, it seems easier, right? Like, oh, what's a way you can do that with something that challenges you? It's not just repeating the thing over and over. It's doing it in different ways. So when you come back to the normal way it feels normal, feels simple, feels easy. So can you move that thing around on the fretboard? Easy go-to thing to do. Little challenge you might have. Move it along the strings if you can. Move it up and down the neck. Change keys if you can. Do different tempos if you can. Mix up the rhythm. Actually change the rhythm. People do that a lot to kind of fix their rhythm issues. Again, just spitballing here. And it's okay if you don't have off the top of your head all these kinds of ways to do it. Part of the fun is scratching your head and thinking, what else could I do? How else could I do this? Okay, you're really being your own teacher. And again, and if you ever have the chance to teach someone, I say take it at some point to experience that, because you will feel this happening in a way that you can do with yourself, but we often don't do with ourselves. But you'll feel this happening. Oh, yeah, do it this way a little bit and try that, and you'll feel it kind of affecting yourself as well. If you ever have the chance to help someone else and teach, okay. So experiment this way, like a scientist. Is how I like to think of it. Try something. It's okay if it didn't do what you thought it was going to do. It's okay if it was a dead end. That's okay. You're getting data. You're learning what doesn't work, right? So have fun with that. I love doing that. Like this is all I do. This is how I love to practice. And it's where all my teaching comes from. A lot of what I do, I'm inventing for myself based on what I want, based on what I'm inspired by, based on the results I see, based on music I'm listening to and learning, and etc. And I say, wow, I really wanted this result. I tried all these different things to get there, and I found one that really works for me. And then I practice it like crazy, get the results, and then I teach it to other people and say, hey, try this. This really worked for me. I'm not just teaching, stuff I learned verbatim from a teacher of mine in the past or from a book. That's not how it works. I'm only ever, I'll use stuff that I learned from other places, of course, but I'm always adapting it constantly based on what I want and need in the moment. So like a scientist is fun, because then you're really seeing, did that work? Did it not work? Oh, it did. Let me add to it. Now let me change it again. Mutate over time, like let it actually evolve. Okay. And a reminder that you can change your mind later. You can try something. You can think it's the answer. You can practice it a bunch, and you can later say, oh, never mind. I talked about that in a video recently because I play with my nails right now. And for 5 years, I played classical guitar without my nails. And I went back on that. And I made a bunch of videos about playing without my nails. And I was really serious about working on it. And I did a series on it. And then I changed my mind. And just with your own practicing too. Yeah, I don't want to be scared to work on something, practice something, play something, commit to something. And anything I am doing in my own music, I inevitably share in my lessons. And I don't want to be scared about sharing stuff, because I think that it's not the permanent, ultimate answer. That would really inhibit me. And I think it inhibits a lot of us. I think it holds us back from trying things because we think, oh, but what if it's not? Well, great. Then you'll figure that out. Then you'll learn that it's not, or maybe it is for a little bit and then it's not later. That's always changing too, right? So don't worry about, is it the right thing? Is it not? Just do it. Just do it. Okay. I think practicing itself is a creative art. I think it's so fulfilling and rewarding to do it makes sense that I say that now after everything I've said, right? That practicing itself is a creative art. Because you're sculpting something, right? It might not be, the practice itself might not be emotionally expressive like we think of, art having the purpose for, but it is creative in the way of like, you are designing something, right? You are constructing something. You are making choices to see, it's like architecture, right? It's like infrastructure. It's you're building, and it's very fulfilling. So to take the ownership over that creative part of practicing, and not just saying, my teacher told me to do this, or this person online told me to do this, or this book said do this exercise. Take part in that. You'll be more proud of it. You'll work harder. You'll feel more excited about the results, and you'll just find that sweet spot for yourself. Okay. Make something harder if you need to make it harder, make it easier if you need to make it easier. And any little chunk of music or exercise anywhere can be the perfect spot for you if you just change what you do with it. So again, let's just take, let's say, well, like Mozart did Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, did the melody for that. And we would maybe initially think, oh, that's a children's melody that's in a bunch of beginner books, and Mozart is this genius advanced musician. Why would he ever work on that? Well, it's because you can do anything with any piece of music, right? You can make a simple thing harder. You can make a harder thing easier. So he did a big theme and variation with that melody, orchestrating it in all kinds of different ways. Just like I talked about, if I had a melody, let me try to play it in the interval of tenths. Awesome. Let me try to play it with this drone and my thumb going, let me try a fingerstyle arrangement of it. You can do all that stuff with the simple, and then it's this creative art that you're playing with, right? So anything that comes at you, if you just spun the wheel and then it said, boom, practice, this little melody, this chunk from a song, this exercise, you can tweak it for yourself. And of course you don't have to, if just the way it is out of the box works for you, great. That's good. But just remember, all great methods, all great exercises, they were made up by somebody. Somebody invented them. Somebody created them. So why should we just assume, this is a thing that exists, I'm just going to use that? Somebody made it up. So you can make up stuff too, if and when it's the right thing for you to do. Okay. To add to this, let me recommend that you go towards what intrigues you the most. This is just from my experience, and it's obvious too, but it's just a good reminder for all of us. Go towards what excites you the most, interests you the most, intrigues you the most, inspires you the most, period. You will always have a better experience and learn better if you have that. Just like I said, choosing that piece of music you thought was too advanced, but you love it so much, and then you choose to just work on the melody or just work on it slower or just change the chords for yourself, arrange it differently, change the key to make it easier, etc. Because you're going towards that thing that intrigues you and inspires you, I think it makes me feel, when I do that, it makes me feel like I've arrived, like I am here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm not doing some sort of exercise to get to something later. I'm in it right now. Okay. So related to that is that there is absolutely nothing that everyone should practice. There's absolutely nothing that everyone must practice. As much as that you might hear someone say that, it's of course not true. Of course it's not true. Why? It only has to do with practicing something, is it related to what you want? Are you practicing related to something that you want? So no one can ever say everyone should learn how to read music. Well, of course not. Of course not. Do you want to? Great, do it. If you don't, so many amazing musicians don't read music. So many amazing musicians don't improvise. So many amazing musicians can't sing, even though they play an instrument. And so it's endless. We can never master it all. There's just in the areas that you actually are interested in the most, there's already more to work on there than we could ever touch, we could ever get to. So why not only do those things, right? And for me, that's all kinds of stuff, including technical exercises. But if that technical exercises aren't for you, then you don't have to do them. But you might realize they're beneficial if you see a limitation with something else you want to do and you turn it into a technical exercise, but you try to have directness with it, where you turn the thing you're working on into a technical exercise, or you find an exercise that works for you for a certain result. But there's nothing everyone must practice. I've been doing this for like 5 years, putting these lessons out. Early on, I posted this idea on Reddit. Little post. I was experimenting with, sharing my teaching methods in different places. And I basically said exactly this. There's nothing that you should practice. And I explained why. And it created so much controversy in this little Reddit thread. And it was like probably one of the most popular things I've ever posted online. Not popular, but got the most attention because people started arguing about it, and people started saying, like, that's not true. If you want to play guitar, then you have to work on all your arpeggios. And, people just really reacted that strongly. I didn't expect that at all. But if you think about it, it's completely why would you have to work on your arpeggios if it's not related to the music you want to play, right? What if you just want to strum chords and you want to do that well, but you don't, why work on something else you don't need or want, right? So don't let anyone make you feel like you should practice something that's not in alignment with what is actually stimulating you the most. It's very possible that a year later, the thing they said might feel like the right thing for you. Very possible. But don't just blindly work on something. And if you don't know what is related to what you want, that's the homework. That is the homework. Like I said, that's the hardest part. Okay, so trust your teachers. Find teachers you trust. Hopefully, if you're still listening to this right now, you found me and you trust me, but learn from anyone and everyone possible as much as you want or can. Trust them. We're not saying what teachers say is not useful. It's very useful, but you want to be a collaborator with them in the sense that you are also a teacher for yourself and you are your best teacher with yourself. You kind of have the final say on it, right? So trust your teachers. Take that all seriously. But also let yourself try different things, adapt, experiment, and see if you can enhance and add to what you learned from teachers. And again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. If something just as it is working for you and you are pumped about it and you feel just in alignment with it, just use it. Use exactly that exercise from the book, from the teacher, from the whatever, do it. And only when you feel like you need to or want to or just feel like trying to, start adapting those things. Is it too hard for you? Is it too easy for you? Does it need to reach a certain goal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That all being said, there's a warm-up I do every day. It's a technique exercise that I use as a warm-up, and I do it every single time I play guitar, and it is amazing. I just rave about it. It's so simple. It's simple now because I do it so much, and it takes me like 5 minutes. And then if I don't do that, my playing session does not feel right. For all kinds of reasons. And if I do it, it just feels like, yes, I can go towards anything now. So I've put that into a PDF that you can get if you want to check it out. You can get that by going to soundguitarlessons.com/warmup, all one word warmup, or you can go to the link in the top of the description if you're watching this on YouTube. This is a great example of a few of the things that I talked about. One, I made this up. I invented it. I was not handed this by anybody. There's a simple warm-up that is probably the most common thing of all time that a lot of beginner guitarists learn, which is frets 1, 2, 3, 4, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, going up the strings. String 6, string 5, string 4, string 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds kind of like a chromatic scale. It's not quite though. And then when you get to the top string, you shift up a fret and then you go 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2. Okay. I did that for a long time and I liked it, and I had my students do it. And it's a great warm-up, and it's great for even practicing guitar early on in our guitar journey to just figure out how do I press the notes down, etc. And remember, anything you practice, you can be focusing on something totally different. It could sound the same on the outside, but you're actually practicing something that only you know what you're practicing. Are you focusing on that tension, the technique, the sound, the pureness of the sound, the speed, etc.? What is it, right? For this, I use it as a warm-up. So my goal for it is to warm up, and I'll kind of switch my focus around as I'm playing it, and I focus on relaxing and warming up. But my point is, I wanted to do this because I found that my technique was so good with this 1, 2, 3, 4 direction and 4, 3, 2, 1, because that's what I was doing. And I was like, I want to mix it up so I use every single finger combination, every permutation of my 4 fingers. So every finger goes to every other finger, and every permutation of the 4 at some point through the exercise. So I invented a way to do this that I can do on any guitar, because I go up to the 6th fret and then go back down from there. And I just, adapted it over time, tried it in a few different ways. I do it plucking, and then I do it slurred after that. And this is just how I do it every day. And it works amazingly for me. So I put it into a PDF. I wrote it out exactly how I do it. And I highly recommend it if you need a warm-up, if you need to work on your technique. And for a lot of us, especially those of us that like to learn and watch YouTube videos and learn on the go, but maybe have less time to deeply practice guitar every day. A lot of what holds us back as our knowledge expands of what's out there, a lot of what holds us back is just simply our technique. So I love this because it just addresses getting a little bit of that kind of technique nutrition in every time that we play by having an exercise like this. And it does wonders over time. Instead of just hoping that the things that we practice improve our technique, we can have something that kind of more directly goes towards it. Now, if you downloaded this and you thought, this is not the right thing for me at all because I believe in that idea that I should only be practicing something that is part of a song, and so I only want to practice scales because that's actually where music comes from, that's fine. That's completely your choice. That's you, just you, only you can know, right? Or if this is too hard and you say, you know what, I'm early in my guitar journey and I'm just going to do the 1, 2, 3, 4 part and not the permutations. Great. That's what millions of guitar players are doing. I just took this to be kind of my ideal version for myself, and it works so well for me that I'm sharing it. And that's how it is with everything that I teach, everything that I share. So you could take that and adapt it. Do a couple of them or take maybe, oh, my pinky is the one thing that's not working that well. Great. Take the permutations on the PDF that I have and just work on the pinky ones, or whatever you want for yourself. It's all written out with notation and tab and shows the finger numbers throughout. So you could even just look at the finger numbers and eventually memorize the order and just, use it like I do, if it's something that works for you and is in alignment with you. So I hope you benefited from this. I hope you found it helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment and let me know maybe something that was an insight for you or something that is going to change the way you think about practicing. If you're listening on my podcast feed of this, and if you are liking what you're hearing, please rate and review the podcast. If you would not give my podcast a 5-star review, please email me, jared@soundguitarlessons.com, and let me know how it could be better. Otherwise, if it's 5 stars, give me 5 stars. I'm just playing with this. It's brand new to put the podcast feed out there where I do more idea and talking lessons at least once a month and put them out there. So different ways to share the content. I know I learned that a lot of people were listening to my videos while driving and stuff. And so I thought, I'll put it out there as an actual podcast feed. So I would love to hear your thoughts about it. If you have any ideas for how it could be better, or just if you love it, please rate and review it. I post a new lesson video on YouTube every single week. I post a podcast episode lesson like this, both on YouTube and in the podcast feed every month. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a guitar student and learning and just loving music. We're all in this together. I hope to see you in another video or in another episode soon. Thank you so much. Take care and happy practicing.